Hello, and welcome to Horror Movies and Shit. I'm your host, Jim, and with me, as always, is
Mark.
So let's address the elephant in the room. Mark, why did you decide to change the name of the podcast?
Why did we change it?
Why did you change it?
Well, because change is good sometimes.
It is.
Really, we just started this podcast, fairly recently. We had some ideas about what we wanted to do, but it's kind of morphed into something a little bit different. So that's it's just more of a reflection of the change of content. Still, obviously, horror movies and shit, but it's a kind of 2-film deep dive thing that we initially started doing. It's more kind of laid back.
Yeah, it's really just, it gives us time to explore more than just horror on occasion. Wow. And I think that, because we love horror, but there are other things that interest us. So,
well, speak for yourself, Jim.
I don't believe House of the Dragon would be considered horror, sir.
Oh, and well,
if I'm mistaken, given your proclivity and your disinterest in movies and TV shows,
wait.
That would follow solidly into your and shit category, would it not?
Hey, there's horrific elements to Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, so I can say
there is no horror in that show.
Well, I don't know about that. I can say that there is.
There might be horrible things that happen,
right?
But not horror.
And let's not go down the the rabbit hole of
right. It's just it does firmly fall into your and shit category.
Right. So I mean, a lot of it is more about kind of what we've watched, right? So
right.
Some of that will be just the shit part.
Okay, so today, Mark, what did you want to talk about? Because this is going to be an and shit episode, right?
Well, no.
Because well, no, but I mean, there's more of a theme. This is more because what happens on Monday, Mark? What is Monday?
There's 3 more days. 2 more days. Halloween. Yes,
that's right.
So we decided. I don't have an exhaustive list of movies I like to watch around Halloween because I watch horror movies like all year round. So, there's some which I'll go back to around this time of year, but I don't really have like any. I know people have got, I will always watch these on like Halloween night or something. Like I'm not that sort of person, but I do ones that are kind of I think they're all Halloween based, but just ones that I kind of like. Do you have a set selection of movies you always watch on Halloween or around Halloween?
No, because usually Ray and I go out for Halloween. We don't go out all that much, but usually we're out, out somewhere in costume. But
trick or treating.
Excuse me. Yes, trick or treating, drinking, whatever you call the adult version of trick or treating is. I do have a few movies that I watched during the Halloween season. That I don't watch the rest of the year because this is going to sound ridiculous, but I get more into the family-friendly movies around the holiday.
Well, that doesn't surprise
and not so much my hardcore horror because I do that all year round.
Right.
So, like this time of year, you'll see me watching, and Mark, you're going to laugh your ass off, Halloween Town.
So this is your trick-or-treating ritual. You and Ray sit down and watch like kids' movies.
He does not. He goes to bed. I watch these movies. I don't know why, but this is usually the only time of year that I'll watch the stuff geared towards younger kids. Like, it's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, Nightmare Before Christmas, which I'll watch almost on a loop between Halloween and Christmas. Then there's Mr. Boogedy and the fantastic sequel Bride of Boogedy. Hocus Pocus, of course. Stuff like that. The more family-friendly stuff, and I don't know why, but this right around this holiday, that's what I focus on.
So no movies featuring ghost rape, Jim?
No movies featuring ghost rape.
That's more for Christmas.
Yeah. No ghost rape for Christmas. I'm never going to get away from that. I never should have told you that story.
That was a great story.
What about you, Mark?
Okay, so I've got a few movies here which I think are, like I say, I don't watch them religiously every year, but this time of year, if I want to put something on, it's usually going to be one of these films. Some are classics and some are a couple of newer ones. But Halloween 3, I think, embodies Halloween probably as good as any movie. I was always a fan of it. I know, you know, people are like, "Oh, I used to hate it back in the day, and I really like it now," which is cool. But as you know, Jim, I am not a big slasher fan.
Correct.
I do like kind of like some science fictiony sort of stuff in my horror too. So I've always loved this movie, and I will always continue to love it. And watch it every other year, maybe. All right. So it was written, Jim. Do you know who it was written by? But he got his name taken off the credits.
I have no idea.
It's written by Nigel Neal, who also wrote the Quatermass movies.
The I'm sorry, the what?
Quatermass.
I don't know what that is.
Well, that does not surprise me. So Quatermass, um, and there's it's British horror sci-fi, really from like the 50s and 60s. There was like a trilogy of movies. There was also like a TV. So, but I love like one of my favorite sci-fi horror movies is Quatermass in the Pit. So it's just
Okay.
interesting that he also wrote this. Another fun factoid. So whenever John Carpenter wrote The Prince of Darkness, uh,
Mm-hmm.
he used a pseudonym of Nigel Quatermass because he also loves the Quatermass movies.
Okay.
There you go.
I mean,
There's some factoids for you.
yeah, those are definitely factoids. That's for sure.
Okay, so the other movie, which I really think, and it's a more modern movie, really embodies the holidays, the Trick or Treat anthology.
That doesn't surprise me that it's on your list.
But what do you think of that movie, Jim?
Oh, I thought it was great. I think it's a great, fun Halloween movie. Um, I enjoyed it more than I usually do anthology series. So I enjoyed it a lot.
Actually, the first time I watched it, I wasn't that impressed for whatever. I don't know. Maybe I was in a weird mood that day or something. But on rewatch, yeah, it's a modern Halloween classic.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very fun movie.
Um, Going back to the '80s, the Linnea Quigley vehicle. Do you know what I'm going to say?
Night of the Demons.
Night of the Demons. Eat a bowl of fuck, bitch, Jim. You don't get that sort of lyrical script writing anymore.
That is a quintessential 80s masterpiece, that movie.
It is.
That and Hell Night are two of my favorites.
That's the one with Linda Blair. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Takes place on Halloween in a castle. How could you not love it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I only watched that for the first time, I think, about a year ago.
Really? That surprises me.
There's just some movies which, for whatever reason, in the '80s, I should have definitely seen. It's like Dead Heat. Like, how did I miss that movie in the '80s?
Oh, Joe Piscopo, right?
Right, which
And
is
Treat Williams.
yeah, which is fantastic. But I only saw it a few years ago. I'm like,
That movie is not fantastic, sir.
it is,
No, it's not.
it is,
No, it's not.
it is.
No, it is not.
Okay. Now the other one, which I was a little surprised about, and again, it's based around Halloween night, where we have a haunted house type thing, which is Hell House LLC, found footage.
I keep hearing good things, and I've not seen any of them.
Yeah. I like. Did I watch them all? I definitely watched two, three. Maybe there's only three.
I
First one,
think there is only 3 at the moment.
yeah, the first one's definitely the best one. It's worth a watch. I mean, it's not the greatest movie ever, but there is certain scenes in it which I really like.
Yeah.
And it's got the found footage thing, so you have to have some sort of appetite for, the acting and stuff in it. The acting's not terrible, but it's.
I generally don't like found footage,
Mm-hmm.
so I that may be why I've passed on it this long.
Yeah, I mean, I think found footage is like any other subgenre or way of shooting a movie. There's good and bad within it.
Agreed.
So
I mean, there are some found, like I was on board for the first Paranormal Activity, which I don't know if you'd really consider that to be found footage,
it is.
but then I wasn't on board for the Blair Witch because and I will say this, the original Blair Witch I was not on board for because the marketing was so effective. I felt duped.
Right.
So that's on me, and I understand that.
Yep,
But
it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
other than that, I'm like I said, I'm not really a big fan of found footage, so I don't watch too many of them.
Cinema verite, Jim.
Mm,
That is
not,
that is the fancy term for it.
yeah, I know. Still, it's just not my thing.
Yep, totally get it. And to each their own.
Yeah, just like slashers aren't your thing. Found footage is not my thing. Nor are giallo movies.
Although giallo movies are slasher movies. Yeah, but that goes back to whenever we did our like best of lists or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I actually quite like a lot of slashers. So I think there's just so many of them that the volume just drowns out the good ones for me in my head.
that's fair.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Jim? Because I have a fun game.
I do not.
Okay, so this will kind of go into what we've watched, and I've kind of lost a bit of interest in these types of episodic Halloween specific TV events. But
Okay.
there was nothing else on, so I just put on Shudders 101 scariest moments ever made. Blah 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 blah. So let me just tell you, I don't know if have I talked to you about whenever I was in the UK, and this is what they should do on Halloween rather than releasing the same type of lists every year. There was a Halloween special called the Horror Cafe, and
Okay.
it's on YouTube now. And what it was you had Clyde Barker, Roger Corman, who else was there? John Carpenter, Peter Atkins, Lisa Tuttle, Ramsey Campbell. I think that was all of them. And they basically just sat around a dinner table. They're all just eating and just talking about like horror movies. And then at the
Right.
end, they kind of came up with, hey, can we come up with like a horror story? So, Clyde Barker started, okay, well, here's the initial premise. And then he passed it on to, another guest, and then they would carry on that story a little bit, and then they would pass it on to another guest. So it was real fun. That was real interesting. But now we just have 101 scary blah blah blah
Clickbait articles, essentially.
blah. Right. Okay. What do I need? Okay. So what I'm going to do, Jim, I'm going to ask you um, if you've seen the movie number one, and if you can guess which scary moment, and if I can remember what they said too, that they brought up. And some of them brought up multiple moments. So, you could take a shot.
Okay.
All right.
I'm
So
getting.
it follows, Jim.
Yes, I've seen that movie.
Okay. What do you think one of the,
The only scene in in any way to me was any good was the death on the beach.
yep. Okay. Moving on. Yeah, I didn't get through the whole 101. I think I'm down to like 3 episodes, but the last episode is just like the top 10. So I've
Mm.
got a lot here. So we'll just run through this, and if you want to
Okay.
talk about the next one was El Orphanage, the orphanage. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Okay, this is highly recommended. It's a Spanish horror movie, and if
Yep.
they plaster Guillermo del Toro presents, but it is a superior haunted house, haunted orphanage movie. I highly recommend it.
I did at one point go to put that on, but I wound up instead watching The Devil's Backbone, which is another orphanage type movie. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I thought The Orphanage was okay. I was not blown away by it.
You
But
should check out The Devil's Backbone if you haven't seen it
sorry,
already.
The Devil's Backbone. I was not blown away by that. It was okay.
I just thought it was very good.
Okay, all right. Moving swiftly along, the made-for-TV movie Salem's Lot.
I'm going to say that they.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, of course. I'm thinking the young boy outside the window asking to be let in.
Yep. I think that one was probably obvious. I think a lot of people, that would be like what they remember from that movie.
It is the most iconic scene in that movie.
Right, other than the makeup for the Nosferatu guy.
Right.
Okay, next up we have the Christopher Lee vehicle, The Horror of Dracula. A Hammer.
I have not seen it.
Okay. Next, we have the Bava classic, Black Sabbath.
Have not seen it.
Okay. Next, we have the Japanese, somewhat classic. No, I don't really like this movie very much. Pulse.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
We're striking out here.
All right. I know you've seen the next one. It's the was it Liv Tyler or the other woman? The Stranger.
Oh, God. Yeah. So the scene that really made me jump in that movie was when she shot her friend thinking it was an intruder.
So that you've seen it, but now
yes.
It's the end point when they say, "Why are you doing this?" And they're like, "Because you were home," or whatever.
That was mediocre to me, and the very last jump scare ruins the entire fucking movie.
We shall not retread old ground. Okay, the next one is the 1941 Universal classic, The Wolfman.
I have seen it. Honestly, the only thing I remember is the transformation scene.
I think that's the one they called out.
Okay.
And again, I'm just going by memory about like me wrong. Well, whatever. It's still a fun game. Okay. Sticking with the 1940s, we have the Val Lewton classic, The Cat People.
I only saw the one with Natasha Kinski.
Okay.
I did not see the original.
Okay, sticking with some more of the classics, Alfred Hitchcock presents The Birds.
You know, there are so many attack sequences in that film. I have no idea what they would have picked.
Wait, so you've seen it? There.
Yes, I have.
Jim, if you've seen it.
Yes, I have seen it. Sorry.
Okay. So, but you cannot pinpoint. Why don't you take a stab at it?
Well, I mean, the most iconic scene is Tippi Hedren running from the birds, but I don't know that is necessarily the scariest scene that they would have highlighted in this show.
So and I am not a huge fan of The Birds.
Yeah, it's not a masterpiece in my opinion. It was okay for its time, but I don't find it to be particularly intriguing or engaging.
Well, what my biggest problem is the first half of it is a terrible like rom-com thing, and I'm just like, I'm bored. I don't care about Tippi Hedren and her boy toy or whatever. But I do think the part that they pulled out is probably the best part of the movie, and it's where you get kind of the bird's eye view of all the destruction going on in the town.
Okay.
So, yep, that was The Birds. Okay, next one. Actually, I have not seen this movie, and I have no idea how I've not seen this movie. It is David Lynch's Mulholland Drive.
I have not seen it either.
Yeah, I definitely have Like, I don't know how I've not seen that.
If I'm not mistaken, that's like Naomi Watts' first starring role, right? Or close to it.
I believe so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Child's Play. I'll do a pre-ring because
Are we doing the remake or the original?
the original.
Okay. Yes, I've seen it, of course.
Okay. What do you think the scariest moment these experts have come up with?
Oh man, I have to say I would think that it would be when the mom is going through the apartment for the first time and she finds out that she sees Chucky actually move and he attacks her. But
yeah, I think that was brought up or as part of the sequence. So
okay.
I remember them, whenever she's picking up Chucky and saying, talk to me, or whatever, and she flips him over.
Yep.
He'd been talking, prior to this, and she looks at the battery compartment, or sorry, the batteries fall out of the box. That's what it is. So she goes to check to see if there's any batteries in him, and there's not.
That's when he finally is. Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play? Yeah.
Okay, next one is An American Werewolf in London.
Of course.
And
so I'm gonna say the transformation scene because it is so drawn out, or the first time he sees his friend after he's killed him.
No. So I actually, if it was me, I would have been stuck between two parts in this.
Okay.
It would have been the initial attack on the moors, which I think has always been horrific. Or the one that they picked, which is the monster Nazi dream scene, which is just so frigging nuts.
Yeah, it is bizarre.
And it's great. And they've got like a double jump scare in that at the end. Yes, it's just a great.
Okay.
All right, next.
In my defense, there's a lot to choose from that's great about that film.
I know. It's all subjective, Jim.
Yep.
Next one is a movie which I started, but I don't know. I didn't finish it, not because I wasn't interested. I don't know what happened. But it is the Jordan Peele movie, Us.
I've never seen it.
Okay, good, because I skipped past whatever scene that they were going to talk about because I still have to finish it. Okay, the next one is Robert Eggers, The Witch.
Yeah, I've seen it.
What scene?
I hated the movie, so I honestly did not think any of it was terrifying.
Okay, so I believe from memory they pulled out the part when the young boy is going through the woods, and then he sees like the very attractive witch who is just obviously, putting on that visage for him,
right?
And then like them kissing, which was always cringy. But then it shows like that her hand is like an old crone's hand. Okay,
right.
Oh, Jim. We have the Lucio Fulci classic Zombie.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. The next, again, another certified classic, Jim. A classic. A George C. Scott classic. You know what it is?
You're going to say The Changeling. I know.
It's The Changeling. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you've obviously...
we have an entire episode where you can hear me bitch about this movie. Yes.
And so what part do you think they pulled out?
Honestly, the only thing that I could think that they would have pulled out would have been the chair, when the chair is chasing them around the house.
Nope.
Okay, then you got me. Because
probably the most iconic part of this movie, which everybody remembers, is when he takes his daughter's ball and throws it into the river, and then he comes home and the ball bounces down the stairs.
That is not scary. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So now we're going back to the 1920s, Jim. How old were you back then?
I was negative 50.
um, for the classic Phantom of the Opera. Have you seen this one?
I have not seen the original. No,
Oh, it's very good.
I don't doubt it. I've never. It's never crossed my mind to look it up.
And you've probably seen the reveal of the Phantom because that's
Yes.
very famous. And I would have loved to, being a witness to people watching that in 1925. It must have been mind blowing.
You want to hear something funny? I'm a big fan of the musical. Like the soundtrack is
The,
almost
the Andrew Lloyd Webber classic music.
yes. The
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 Phantom of
soundtrack,
the Opera is here.
the soundtrack is near perfection.
Mhm.
And when I lived in Connecticut, in my late 20s, my sister and I got tickets to go see it in Hartford, and I am not ashamed to admit that I was ugly crying through this whole show because I've been wanting to see it for so long.
Okay.
I
Good for you, Jim.
know.
I'm happy you had that experience.
I am too, actually.
All right. Next up is the David Cronenberg classic, The Brood. Have you seen The Brood?
I've not seen The Brood.
Okay, I think our audience is getting a glimpse behind the curtain of Jim's. There. All right. The next one is the South Korean movie, A Tale of Two Sisters.
Yeah, no.
So that's it. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's a no. No, no, haven't seen it.
All right, and we're coming back to Italy here, Jim, for our
Oh,
next one.
fuck.
The Lamberto Bava, Dario Argento scripted classic, and it is a classic, and so is the first sequel. Demons.
I have seen that.
Wow. And
It was okay. I don't understand what all the reverie for it is, but it was okay. It was not a terrible experience.
uh, okay, I'm shocked that you didn't hate it
I, okay.
because it's there's the plot's all over the place. A lot of it doesn't
Yes,
make any sense, and that's the sort of thing that drives you crazy. So
it is, but for whatever reason, and I can't explain it, I didn't hate it about that film. I
huh.
really didn't. Mark, are you there?
No, my wife just texted me and said, "Stop with that bell." So you know what I say to that?
More Bell.
More cowbell.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Um, yeah. So Demons is a classic, and you should watch Demons too, even if you liked Demons. It's more of the same, and you should definitely watch it prior to the new Evil Dead coming out because it sounds like it's exactly the same plot,
Okay.
where it's a high rise and the demons come out to play
Okay.
in like a high rise, which is the new Evil Dead movie. Okay. Next up is the sequel to Stephen King's The Shining.
Doctor Sleep.
Yes, and
Of course I've seen it. I own it.
what do you
I
think? I think
I'm
it's.
gonna say
I
I'm
think
gonna
it's.
say I'm gonna say it's when they kill Sandy or the little baseball kid.
Yep, that is.
So
I mean,
the big
I think that is one of the most effective scenes, and I guess they cut it down like by half.
yes,
That involves a kid being killed.
it was the movie was so well. It never quite rose to the level of the book. Like I think Rose, um, the Hat, was miscast. I mean, not that I have anything against the actress that played her. I just don't think she was intimidating or as scary as that character needed to be. And I fucking hate the ending of that movie.
So I've never read the book, so
Well,
And
I won't be spoiling anything by when I tell you the end of the movie Doctor Sleep
right,
is the end of the book, is the book ending from The Shining,
right,
rather than using the very effective and very well done ending that is actually in the book Doctor Sleep.
right. So, what's his name decided that he wanted to kind of amalgamate the two because he knew a lot of people love the movie, right? And obviously Stephen King hates the movie,
Yeah.
um, but he wanted to incorporate that, which fair enough.
Uh,
I mean, I had no problem with it. I honestly, I had more problem. I like the movie. Don't get me wrong. My bigger issue is it kind of felt like a weird, like X-Men movie or something.
exactly. It was the tone of the movie was too light. It was too
It just felt like super powered people going against each other and
and
kind of a comic book way. I don't know.
and it kind of is, but in the book there's a darker tone to everything. Like um, Danny is in a really, really bad place where his shining is starting to pop up again because he's trying not to drink, and you get the whole story about how Wendy dies of cancer and what he went through in order to lock up all of the ghosts as a child after the events that took place at the Overlook. There was so much they cut out that would have made it a much more intense and thought-provoking film. This was just a mass market film. It did not. Anyway, I'm sorry. I
But speaking of The Shining, and I guess Shelley Duvall is coming back to acting.
I saw that she's going. I don't remember what movie she's going to be in, but she's going to play some psychopath's mother. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we'll see. Good for her, though. I know she's had a lot of mental.
Her first movie in 22 years. I think it's amazing.
Next up, Jim, we
Yes.
have the Clive Barker story, Tony Todd vehicle.
Candyman.
Yes.
Candyman. Candyman.
So, which part do you think they talked
The
about?
most terrifying scene in this film for me, and I don't know if this is going to make sense, is when she crawls out of the bonfire with the baby at the end.
Nope. They talked
I,
about.
I'm not surprised, but that to me, that was the most horrific scene I had seen in a movie.
Well, that's going a little far, Jim. The most horrific thing you've seen in a movie.
At the point when I saw Candyman, yes.
Candyman was what, mid 90s?
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, the part that they brought up, I believe, was the first time that she met Candyman in the parking lot,
Okay.
which I agree with to the extent of I think it was very interesting to have the character in a normal situation and Candyman being there in full daylight.
Yeah.
So
That's effective. I get that. Okay.
okay, next one is the 1978 movie, the Donald Sutherland, Leonard Nimoy, and Jeff Goldblum classic.
Dun, dun, dun.
Veronica Cartwright was in it too. Right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Okay. So, what do you think? Which part?
Honestly, I'm gonna go with the only. I mean, I've not seen this movie in so long that the only thing that sticks out in my head is the iconic scene with Donald Sutherland pointing after he becomes a pod person.
Yes, I believe that's what they did. Okay.
Okay.
Moving on swiftly to Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell in the original
Yes,
Evil Dead.
of course. Of course, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you that the worst scene in this film for me was the tree rape.
Is that worse than Ghost Rape, Jim?
To me, yes.
Okay. Are you branching out?
Ah, ah, ah.
Oh. Okay, but that is not. No, that's not the part that we talked about. I think it was
Okay.
whenever his sister first turned, and they were doing the card thing, and she was like, "Ace of Spades, Two of Hearts," and they were just
Oh yeah, and that is true because everything ratchets up until it explodes, and that they did a really good job building that whole scene.
Yeah,
Like
I love
when,
that sequence.
yeah, I agree.
Okay,
But
next up. Yep.
which was shortly after the tree rape
Mm-hmm.
because his sister is the one that is raped by the tree.
Yeah. Like I said,
Okay, next.
pretty much that. Okay. Next up is Zack Snyder remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Never saw it. I haven't seen the original or the remake.
What? Jim
We've
Jim.
had this conversation, Mark.
Okay. Next up is Natalie Portman in
Black Swan
no
or Annihilation.
Annihilation.
Okay, I've seen them both. So
So, what part in Annihilation do you think they brought up?
I think that they're going to bring up the bear scene where they're hiding in the house and the bear's walking by.
Yep, which is horrific.
It is. That was a very well done creature feature. The ending gets a little goofy and silly, in my opinion, but I thought that was really that movie was really well done.
Yeah, I love the movie. Next up is one of your favorites. I'm going to pre-ding you, Jim.
Okay,
Cujo.
of course, of course, I love that movie. I think they're going to probably pick the point where the son starts having his asthma attack.
This one I'm trying to think what they picked, so I don't remember. So
Okay.
let's go with that one. But I don't think it was that part. I think it was when Cujo first turned, but I don't know. I don't remember. Next up, another David Cronenberg classic.
The Fly.
What?
Uh, I have to say the most disturbing sequence in this movie was when he was in the bathroom pulling out his teeth. For me.
I think from memory it was the arm wrestling scene.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Uh, Next up, the quote unquote musical, Jim, The Wicker Man, the
I
original.
I've not seen either of them.
You should check out the original because it's a classic. You should check out the Nicolas Cage one because it's hilarious.
Okay.
Okay, we're going back in time again, Jim. Have you ever seen Nosferatu?
I actually own it on DVD.
Okay.
And I would have to guess it would be when Count Orlok first attacks. When he's first, when you first see him on screen is the only thing I could think that they would pick for a film that old. I mean, honestly.
I think so. I'm trying to remember. But sure, let's go with that one.
Okay.
Next up is a movie which I just watched recently because it just came out recently. The Night House, Jim.
Oh, The Night House?
Yes.
Is that the underwater movie?
No, that's the Deep House, Jim.
Oh, okay. I'm getting these confused. The Night House. Refresh my memory.
So this is one where it's a woman whose husband has recently killed himself,
Okay.
and she's like in this lake house, and then she starts to discover things about his past which she didn't know about, and there's a supernatural angle on it.
This does not sound familiar to me.
Now you mightn't have seen it, but I think it's on HB. I think it's on HBO. And
Okay, I'll look it up then.
I highly recommend it.
I'm
Uh,
writing it.
I thought it was very good. Next up is a little movie you may or may not have heard of, James Cameron's Aliens.
What? What is that?
Yeah, I know, right? Never heard of that.
As I have my little vibrating xenomorph right next to me.
Right.
Yes, of course I've seen it. Let's see. It's either going to be the scene where Ripley and Newt get locked into medbay with the face hugger, or when the Colonial Marines are first attacked under the nuclear core.
I believe from memory it was the scene of Newt and Ripley getting attacked by the facehuggers, which is a fantastic scene, especially from special effects wise, right? Like the way they shot those facehuggers was amazing.
It was fantastic. I mean, well, I mean, you know as well as anybody who's ever listened to this show that is one of my favorite franchises ever, up to the Prometheus garbage.
I have serious issues with some of the sequels. It's not to say that I don't maybe not like them, but there's just a lot. I'm just like, why did you make that decision? That was an awful.
I don't disagree with that. However, I do still love the the four original installments.
Yeah, the first two, and then the other two were like, eh.
I see. I think three to me is like Season of the Witches. You either love it or you hate it, and I loved it. I thought it was a great new way to keep that claustrophobic feel. Personally,
I'm sorry to, call you a liar, Jim. I thought it was just okay, so it wasn't a love it or hate it for
okay, well that's fair.
me. All right, next up, everybody's favorite kid in the Babadook.
Oh fuck me. Yeah, I've seen it. I have no idea because this movie is straight garbage.
I don't think this movie is garbage. I think this movie is fairly good. I don't get. Well, I kind of do. People say that kid is super annoying, but he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be driving his frigging mom like fucking crazy.
I have never wanted a child in a movie to die as much as I did that kid. So props to the kid for being extremely effective in his role.
Yep.
However, no.
As far as the part, I don't remember which part they talked about. Anyway, next up is the remake, basically, of Ingmar Bergman's classic, The Virgin Spring. Which movie am I talking about, Jim?
The only one that even comes to mind at all would be Midsummer. I have no idea.
No, it is Wes Craven, The Last House on the Left.
Really? Huh.
If you watch The Virgin Spring, which is a very good movie too,
Never heard of it.
It's it's exactly the same plot, but think about more medieval times and royalty and stuff like that, rather than just like modern day. But it's the same thing where this group of people kill this girl. Parents find out about it, and it's the same thing. Anyway, so Last House on the Left, Jim.
Of course, I've seen it.
Yeah. So which part?
I'm gonna say the part that was the most unsettling for me was the scene where the girls were forced to defecate on themselves.
Pee on themselves.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Go to the bathroom, whatever. Not shit, whatever.
Yeah, they did call that part out.
Yeah, that was the most disturbing part, but that also is like a very minor part that just sets off the rest of the movie.
Well, to me, that kind of grounds the movie
Mm-hmm.
because you're like, oh, you don't see that in the movie really, but you would think that happens in real life. But the part I think they talked about also was when the girl just walks into the lake, knowing that they're going to shoot her anyway.
Okay.
She's just given up.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, very nihilistic movie that's brought down by those terrible comedy cops, including the guy from Karate Kid. All right, next one is I think a modern classic. You may not have seen it. It's from Argentina. Jim, what are your favorite Argentinian movies?
I honestly would not be able to tell you one.
So this is a highly recommended movie called Terrified, not Terrifier, not the clown movie. This is a
No,
supernatural ghost, multiple haunting detective story.
I know the cover. As soon as you said it, I know what the cover looks like, so I know what to look for.
Yes, definitely check that out. Okay, I'm going to pre-ding you again.
Okay.
It is the it
Hate
is
me
the
at the end of this episode.
huh?
Your wife is going to hate me at the end of this episode.
Well, join the club. Um, so it is the Halloween knockoff that is Friday the 13th.
Okay, yeah, of course I've seen it. What is the most disturbing
The
or
scariest.
is the scariest? You know, the one that bothered me the most was Kevin Bacon's when he gets the arrow through the neck.
Is that no? Oh yeah. Whenever he's under the bed.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't remember which part they talked about. Honestly, I think it might have been the end when Mrs.
When the head gets chopped off.
Or it could have been Jason on like I don't know at the very end.
Oh, the jump scare at the end. Okay, yeah,
Uh,
that I could see that.
I am not going to ding for this one because you just said that you've never seen it, you weirdo. George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
That is correct. I've never seen it.
Okay, the next one up ruined a highly respected director's career because it was deemed too salacious. Jim, it is Michael Powell's Peeping Tom.
Yeah, you've talked about it before, but I've never seen it.
Okay, next up is a movie I don't like because I can't get past the concept. What is it, Jim? Recent.
I have no.
A Quiet Place.
Oh, A Quiet Place. That's right. And I'm surprised that bothered you more than Bird Box.
I have not seen Bird Box.
Well, it's essentially the same, except instead of being quiet, you have to be blind.
Yeah.
So I personally liked it, and I will tell you the scene that did it for me was when she gave birth in the bathtub.
I think that's the one they talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is the Brian Cox classic, The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Fantastic movie.
I think that movie was the first half was better than the second half, but as a whole, it's very good.
I agree.
Okay, so what
I would. Sorry, I had to take a drink. I would have to say that the part that I would have considered the scariest would have been when oh my god, at the end when he realizes that it's not that all of the symbols and stuff were not to keep people. Oh my god, how did they put it? Damn it. When they had to stay locked in with her, when they finally realized that they just couldn't let her out.
That's a great answer, and I can't remember some of these. I'm just man, whatever.
Okay. It had. I know it had something to do with the symbols, and it was a giant twist where that it wasn't. They weren't. It wasn't that anything was coming. That anything that was trying to get in, it was her trying to get out.
Right. The next up is Don Coscarelli's first horror movie that has spawned a franchise where I love every single movie in that franchise for totally different reasons.
Are we talking about Maniac Cop?
No.
And what are we talking about?
Phantasm.
Oh God! Even Ravager.
I see. This is what I don't get that people don't like Ravager. If you like the sequels, like okay, so take number 1 out of it, take number 2 out of it because number 2 was
that ends my interest in the entire series.
But like 3 and 4 are
garbage.
Just the same as Ravager.
So after you take 1 and 2 out, you've lost me. So
no. I mean, like people who like the series, right?
Yeah.
But say they don't like Ravager.
Yeah, I like I said, I have a lot of love for number 1 and number 2. The rest I could just leave off to the side. I don't care about them.
But if you like all of the other movies, especially 2 or 3 and 4, why do you have a problem with Ravager? Because it's like 3 and 4. Is my point.
Yeah, I'd have to defer to you in that because I I honestly saw Ravager because I have such fond memories of 1 and 2, and I saw it and went, "This is not the movie I want to see." So I gave up on it.
I love Ravager. Again, I love all the movies for almost different reasons, uh,
Right.
but they all hang together for me. Okay, we have talked about this movie a little bit. It is Ju-on.
Okay. Have seen it.
Huh?
I said I have seen it, of
Yeah.
course.
Hmm.
So my first guess would be when the sister sees Kayaku, or when she lifts up the covers and the face is there and she gets dragged into the bed.
I think that is the part.
Okay.
Okay. This next one is a movie which, again, I don't know how I've never seen it. When a Stranger Calls.
Oh, Carol Kane. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Okay.
Um, my my guess would be when the cops call her and say the call's coming from inside the house.
Yeah, sure, whatever. I don't know. The next one is actually, in a way, kind of linked with.
So do you? Oh, hold on. We need to discuss this because there's a movie I've seen that you haven't.
No.
So we need to talk. We need to discuss this. Um, I because I'm actually kind of shocked because that's never happened to us before, Mark.
Oh, really?
I I,
Really?
I feel like we might be cheating on each other. Um,
Wow.
this so this movie is fantastic. Do you even know the premise of this
Yes.
movie?
Yeah. It's
Okay,
like a Halloween sort of. Well,
not
it's a
so
girl stuck in the house, and then she's getting calls from a crazy person,
no. So
from a
what
stranger.
happened?
A
Yeah,
stranger
so
calls Jim.
right, a stranger calls, and she's not stuck in the house.
But she's
She finds
babysitting.
out
Yeah.
she is babysitting, but I forget if it's like around half to just before the third act of the film, she realizes that he's already killed the children.
Oh, spoiler!
Yeah, well, I mean, the movie came out in what, 81? I don't think I'm
I
spoiling
know,
shit.
but I haven't seen it.
No, it's not a spoiler because there's so much more to this movie than just that. Um, but like I said, there's so much more that happens other than her just being in the house. And then the sequel was just as good, When a Stranger Calls Back, because it takes the final girl from the first movie and she is trying to help somebody that's going through the same situation.
Yeah, I'll get around to it.
You should. It
It's
surprised me about Carol Kane because I've only known her from her comedic stuff.
I don't know who that is.
She was Andy Kaufman's wife on Taxi.
Remember who you're talking. Oh, she was on Taxi.
Yes, she was.
I
She
watched
was
Taxi,
Andy Kaufman's wife.
but yeah, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know her from Chopped Liver.
Have you seen Scrooged?
Yeah,
She hits Bill Murray with a toaster.
I've only seen that a couple of times.
Have you seen The Princess Bride?
Not all the way through.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Never mind.
Jim, let me reiterate to you, I am a horror fan.
Yes, you are. However, there are still some staples that should be enjoyed, sir. The
um,
Princess Bride is one of them. That is a fantastic, cheesy '80s movie.
you know what? It's kind of like um, the Monster Squad. I feel like growing up in the '80s, I should have, as a kid, I should have seen the Monster Squad
I
because,
agree.
but I never did. It's just
Right.
weird. Anyway, next up is again maybe something that's slightly related to When a Stranger Calls. It is the Bob Clark classic pre-Halloween slasher of Black Christmas.
I've seen the original, but only once, and it was many, many years ago. So I have no idea what they could possibly have picked.
I think from memory they picked the so one of the that was really good. So one of the girls was killed, and then he's like puts her in the attic,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
then
with her face wrapped.
yeah, and then like they never find her.
Right.
And Bob Clark also directed which very famous Christmas movie?
I have no idea.
You'll shoot your eye out, Jim.
Oh yeah, A Christmas Story, which they're making a sequel to.
But isn't it funny he did
To
Black
go from
Christmas
one extreme
and
to
then
the
he
other.
also did that?
Yeah, that is pretty funny.
Next up is the Tim Robbins vehicle, which I think I've only seen once. I really
Jacob's Ladder.
yeah.
Yeah,
You seen it?
I have. I've not seen the remake though.
No, I have heard bad things about the remake, but I need to revisit the original because I've only
Yeah,
seen like when it was released. So
I, same here, and I always, for whatever reason, conflate that and Serpent in the Rainbow.
I can see that because they're both kind of dreamlike, right?
Yeah, I always get one mixed up with the other all the time. So I have no idea what they would have picked because it's been many years since I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I will be shocked, Jim, but I would also be proud of you if you've seen this made for TV 1970s
Don't go to
gritty
sleep. Oh no,
nuclear war shocker called Threads.
I have not.
Yeah. Um, I'll pre-ding The Howling.
Of course, because you all know my love for Dee Wallace.
Yep.
I'm honestly gonna say I the scene that did it for me was her transformation at the end. I was in tears.
No, I think they talked about um, when one of the characters is going through like records at the place, and the werewolf
Oh
comes.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yep.
All right. Next up is the Stephen King um, movie, Gerald's Game.
So see,
You've seen it,
of course, I've seen it and I've read the book.
so then you know what they're going to talk about. Right.
They're gonna talk about the scene where the dog eats the dead guy on the floor.
No, Jim.
What?
God. It's the degloving part.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's more squeamish. I don't think that's a scary part.
Well,
Like sitting there watching your dog eat your dead husband, is that not more horrifying than ripping your flesh off?
I almost feel like the list is made up of the like if you could just remember one part of a movie, which part would it be?
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I mean, that was a really effective scene, but still.
Next up is James Caan. Okay.
James,
What am I going to bring up?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Misery. Hello.
Oh, James Caan.
Yeah.
You said can, and I thought you were trying to shorten Cameron. Sorry. Oh yes, Misery. So I'm gonna go with the hobbling scene.
Yeah.
Breaks his ankles.
Next up is.
So, fun fact: did you know in the book she actually cuts off his feet?
Yeah, I did know that.
Because that was also a kill they could have brought into the movie. Was in the movie she shoots the sheriff and pushes him down the stairs. In the book, she ran him over with a lawnmower.
The running him over with a lawnmower seems a little contrived.
Oh, I thought it was done really effectively, personally.
It seems like the Austin Powers steamroller.
Well, I mean, but then again, we did have Maximum Overdrive, where all the motorized vehicles and lawnmowers killed everybody. Anyway, next.
Next up is Frankenstein.
Which version?
I didn't write it down, so I'm going to go with the original.
Okay, I've seen it. I honestly don't know what they would have picked as the scariest moment, except possibly when he comes to life.
Well, I think it's probably the part. I'm just making this all up now. I think it's just the part where, if I had to choose from the original Frankenstein, It's going to be the part where he throws the little girl in the lake.
Okay, I could see that maybe.
Because that was, I mean, imagine how shocking that was back then too.
Yeah, that's true. That would have been
Uh,
next.
so, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Of course.
Mhm.
I'm going to go with the scariest part is probably going to be either when, oh god, there's so many. I got freaked out when the millipede comes out of Tina's mouth. I got freaked out when Freddy first cuts off his fingers in front of Tina. I got freaked out when Tina gets dragged across the ceiling. So that's just off the top of my head. The first three scares that really were effective for me.
Right across the ceiling, because I think that's the best part.
That was pretty shocking. I agree.
Okay, next up is A Bay of Blood. Jim?
Never heard of it.
Italian classic. It really is a precursor to Friday the 13th.
Okay.
There are a lot of, in fact, they stole the scene where the spear goes through the couple on the bed
Oh,
from A Bay of Blood,
okay.
which is another Baba movie. Next up is James Wan's The Conjuring.
Of course, I've seen it.
And I mean, this is
That's what I'm trying to think. Because I got to say, honestly, I think the ending was a bit ridiculous
no,
of the movie. I thought the movie was really well done, like suspenseful and all that. Taking out the fact that it's supposedly a true story or whatever.
I'm taking out the fucking Warrens who are fucking
Right.
psychos.
So taking out all of that as a movie itself, I thought it was really well done and really effective until the end. I thought the ending was a bit ridiculous, but a lot of that has to do with Lily Taylor. I think she's a phenomenal actress.
Yep.
I honestly don't recall any parts of that being a good thing.
It's the most iconic thing.
Okay, the clapping. Right,
Yeah.
when the match goes out. Yeah.
Right. Next up, another Jordan Peele movie.
Okay.
Get Out. Jim, Get Out.
I didn't care for it, so I got nothing.
I like this movie a lot.
I know we disagree on that, and I think we got it down to the fact that I just couldn't identify with any aspect of the movie, so that I couldn't relate to anything. So it's not to say it was a bad movie; it just never connected with me.
The next one is kind of a strange one because they pull.
Wait! You didn't. What's the scariest part of Get Out?
Get Out. It's whenever she does the teacup thing and he falls down.
Okay.
Yeah. Next up is a weird one because it's a specific episode of a specific series, which I have not seen, and it's the new Twin Peaks series.
Okay, I've seen it.
It is episode 8.
Episode 8.
So they talked about it's like the nuclear bomb episode or something. I've not seen it, so I don't know.
I gotta say it doesn't ring any bells. I have seen the whole series, but I don't remember that episode.
Next up, and we're going to cut this off after a few more here, which is probably good for our audience because I have not watched all of this episodes. It is the Guillermo del Toro classic Pan's Labyrinth.
I loved it. I thought it was a great fantasy horror movie. And I'm going to go with the scene where she walks into the dining hall and the guy puts up his hands and he's got eyes in his hands.
Yeah, I think that's one that talked about. Yes, that is a wonderful, wonderful movie that is the reflection of the horror type elements in the fairy tale part are a reflection of the real life horror of war and all that. Next up, Rosemary's Baby.
I've seen it once all the way through. And I would have to go with the scene where she is forced to have sex with the devil.
I believe that's the one that they did. And there is a wonderful line in that where she's like, this isn't a dream. This isn't a dream, because obviously she's been drugged and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But she's realizing, hey, no, this is actually real.
Right.
Which I think is a great part. So the new French
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'll look it up later. Never mind.
No, you can ask me and I'll see.
So there's another movie that is sort of similar, and I thought that it might have been almost, but now that I'm talking out loud, I'm pretty sure it's just a different book. I thought it was sort of akin to Rosemary's Baby, like a sequel called Servants of Twilight, but it's not, because that's a Dean Koontz book.
That's Dean Koontz, right?
Yeah.
Which I haven't read. I just know the title. The next one up is my second favorite of the new wave of French extremity movies, which is L'Intérieur, Jim, or also known as Inside.
I've not seen it.
Inside is fantastic. You should watch it.
Well, you have that now. I now have that and Martyrs both on my plate. So
yeah, don't watch I feel like we have to do like a watch along for Martyrs.
Okay.
But Inside is it's so good. It's so good. And you know the premise, right, of that?
No.
So it's a home invasion movie. There's a woman who's lost her husband.
Okay.
But she's pregnant by him, and she's like 9 months pregnant, basically. And it's like Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, and like a week or I don't know, a little bit prior to that, she's involved in a car crash, and she then is alone at home on this like eve with somebody stalking her.
Okay. That sounds like something I could get into.
It is brutal, though.
I'm okay with brutal.
Yeah. Okay. The next up, the David Fincher, Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman.
7.
Yes.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
I got to say, the most effective scare in this one for me was when they saw the man or the murder victim for gluttony.
No, that's not the one that they picked.
Okay, what did they pick?
The sloth.
Sloth, really?
So yeah, because it's got that jump scare in it.
I don't remember that scene, so I'll say okay.
That's the emaciated guy on the bed, and the cop goes up to him and says, "You deserve this," and then because they think he's dead, he's all like, and
yeah, I haven't seen 7 since it came out, so it doesn't ring any bells.
So sticking with Fincher here, we have another serial killer movie, but based on real life. Do you know what it is?
No.
Zodiac.
Oh, I have not seen that one.
Okay. The next movie that they have, although I prefer the sequel, but the original is still very good. 28 Days Later.
I did enjoy that movie. I honestly, I don't know. I would guess it's going to be when they're first attacked by the monkey in that facility when they're walking.
I think it was whenever he first was attacked by.
Oh, just by the running. When you realize that oh my god, they can run. Yeah. Okay, I can see that.
The next one is probably because it's different from a lot of vampire movies. Set in Alaska.
Oh, 30 Days of Night. Fantastic movie.
So
really well done.
Which part?
I would have to say it's probably when the lady gets dragged back under the building at the beginning. That was my first scare in that film.
No, similar to The Birds. It's where they have kind of the overhead camera,
Okay.
showing all the destruction that they're doing.
Yeah, I don't find that shot scary personally, but okay, whatever. To each his own.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a very effective shot scene.
Yeah,
Because
I don't disagree that it's effective. I just don't find it as a scary moment. I don't define it as a scary moment in that movie. There's so much other stuff that you could have taken from that film. But
uh, yeah, yeah, but I think that that overhead shot really has, you know, the color palette that they were looking for.
Mhm.
The red blood on the white snow.
the movie, I honestly don't have any problems with that movie. I think it's really well done. I think it's really well shot. It's beautiful. It's beautiful in its brutality.
Yeah,
Does that
I
make
think it's
sense?
pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so I will pre-ding you. This was the only or the first horror movie. I'll say horror movie that won Best Picture.
The Exorcist.
Nope, it didn't win Best Picture.
Oh no, that did best makeup. Sorry. I don't know.
Silence of the Lambs.
Of course, I've seen it.
Yep.
Um. Oh, I, d- I don't know what scene they would have. I mean, my guess is that they're going to do the fava bean scene, but that's only because it's the most iconic from the movie.
I don't remember, but what I'll say is, I think whenever he's beating the police officers in the cell
Yeah.
is the best scene. As far as being kind of like, wow.
Sir Anthony Hopkins plays a great fucking psycho. He did in Magic, and he does in this one too.
Is he a psycho in Magic?
I think, he's had some sort of mental break. That's how I always took that film.
Yeah. Or was he driven to madness?
Either way, he's had some sort of break, mental break, and he is now gone batshit crazy. Anyway.
Okay.
Next.
The last one that I've written down here, with I think again 3 episodes to go, is Dario Argento's most well-known movie.
Enlighten me, oh great Swami.
Suspiria.
Oh, yeah. See, I've never seen the original. I'd only seen the remake.
Then you get a.
But I'm still gonna say that isn't that dance scene like almost shot for shot from the original?
No, there is no such scene.
Really? Okay, I was mistaken.
No. The original has very elaborate death scenes, but not one like that.
Okay.
Which they couldn't do back then, anyway.
True.
So that is the end of this list so far. We will maybe continue it next week because
okay,
pretty fun.
Okay, so let's talk about what we've seen then. How's that?
Okay, I do not have much, so
I have a bit. So why don't you go first?
So apart from the 101 most scary movies, blah blah blah. I actually had so I've been trying to get my like son and stepdaughter into horror movies for forever. My son wanted to. He suddenly got interested in Hellraiser. So what did I do, Jim? I sat him down and I said, "Let's watch Hellraiser 2."
Okay, that's fair. I can see that as a jumping off point.
Is that a faux pas to skip the original? Probably. But
I don't know. I don't know that it's a faux pas. I think honestly, for a casual horror fan, that might be a good starting point.
Because I told him you kind of get the recap of the original in the sequel, and I think the sequel is better.
Well, I mean, we can agree that you're wrong, but okay.
Well, you know, I think many people online have been telling you, Jim, that you're wrong. So
I've not heard that. One person.
I don't believe in communism like you do. So,
well, one person has said I'm wrong about my feelings for one movie. I would like to say that most of our listeners that have engaged online have agreed with me, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, I mean, if you take your mom out of it, Jim, then
there's still one more. There's still one more.
Yeah, but your alter ego online doesn't count either.
Hey, Sarah Cooper is not my alter ego. Just saying.
Well, I don't know. It's a brave new world, Jim. But again, like I asked him because he's not seen a lot of horror movies. He watched a couple of the Saw movies, and I said, like, what did you think of this one? He's like, wow. His mind was kind of blown. Like, yeah, because it's so imaginative, right?
Right.
He'd seen like Saw in a very, it's not realistic, but it's set in the real world. It's not like Hellraiser.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So he was like, wow, that's it's crazy. And I'm like, did you like it? And he said, yeah, I really did. And I'm like, yeah, there's 10 other ones that you have to watch now.
Yeah.
So the last thing, I don't know why I haven't watched much this week, but the last thing that I watched was the Cabinet of Curiosities episode.
I have also started that show.
And I just skipped to, I saw that they had Dreams in the Witch House, which is one of my favorite Lovecraft stories.
Okay.
So I just watched that one.
I haven't seen that episode yet. I saw the first 3. Lot 36 was very reminiscent of the Twilight Zone movie where the racist guy in the bar gets transported back to Vietnam. It had a lot of cues from that movie, and it was fantastic.
Hang on, what? No, just repeat that 1 second. So
what
happens in it?
So I'm talking about Twilight Zone, the movie.
Right? Yeah.
There is a racist guy gets walking out of a bar and somehow winds up back in Vietnam.
Vic Morrow.
Yeah, Vic Morrow.
Yeah.
So the first episode is called Lot 36, and it's about a guy who he is a vet suffering from PTSD. He is extremely racist. Mm-hmm. And he buys storage units. And in one storage unit, he finds a seance table along with 3 volumes of books. And they find a buyer who's very, very interested. And they go back to try and find the 4th volume. And that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to give anything away. These episodes are not very long. At the most, they're an hour. But so far, this is like a revival of the old Twilight Zone. I think it's done really, really well.
So for the episode I watched, and it's interesting because again, it's one of Lovecraft's most famous stories. It was an episode of Masters of Horror, which I thought they did pretty well. This one, it's introduced by Guillermo del Toro, right? And this one really leaned heavily into some of the, could almost say like Pan's Labyrinth, like fantastical fairy tale parts of it. For the first like 20 minutes, it was not this, the short story, which is fine because it's a short story and you need to probably flesh it out a little bit.
Right.
But it was still interesting what the angle they took on it, and beautifully shot. I'll be watching more of these. So
I think you're going to be very happy you did, because so far I think I'm up to episode 4 or 5, and I've not been disappointed at all.
Right, and I was just looking through like some of the names of the episodes, and I guess they're doing other Lovecraft ones because they have Pickman's model on there.
I just watched that one. Watched that one this morning.
Okay, so that's another Lovecraft story, right?
I was not aware of that, but I can see it now that you say that.
Right. That is all I've watched.
Okay. Well, I have a little more of an extensive list than you do this week. Surprise, surprise.
Wow.
Because I know it's like we're turning everything on its ear now that we've just changed the name, right?
Well, yeah. It's rebranding. It's a brand new way that we're looking at things. You're going to be the horror expert. I'm just going to be the novice.
No, that's not going to happen. So the first thing I watched was called Jinn, and I'm not going to lie, I forget what streaming service it was on. I don't remember if it was Shudder or if it was one of the other ones. This movie could have been fantastic. but their inability to maintain a cohesive thought process for the main character really does a disservice. So this, oh, my xenomorph just started vibrating again. Sorry. Let me put that down.
No, sorry to everybody. Just to let you know that Jim has a vibrating toy that he's interrupting this podcast.
That's right. That's right. I do. So this movie is about a young boy who is mute, and his mother has committed suicide, and his father has moved them into a new apartment. In this new apartment, he finds a spell book where he can conjure a djinn who will grant your one wish if you survive until after midnight in its presence. And the djinn in this movie is it's exactly what it normally is. It twists everything. It makes it horrible, but you never actually see the djinn. It always takes the guise of your worst fear. So in his case, he kept reliving the suicide of his mother, which he apparently witnessed, and a few other things. But his father has gone to work because he's an overnight radio announcer, so he's stuck in this house with these monsters and these horrors that are going on. He makes.
Is a djinn voiced by Robin Williams?
No, no, he's not. That would be a little difficult, given that the movie was made last year.
He's a genie, Jim. So I don't
know. Maybe. So in this movie, the kid makes some very smart decisions, and then he makes some really stupid decisions, and it threw the whole thing off because he never stays consistent. And like, there's one scene where I don't know how, but the guise that the djinn has taken is his dead mother, but for some reason she's blind, and all he has to do is stand still for her to miss him.
Okay.
So, it's just it was that did it in for me, was the inability for it to just stay on a consistent level. But yet he knows enough to reprogram his phone to call somebody. So it didn't hold up for me. It could have been great, but it just wasn't.
So what is Jim's rating for this?
That would be a 2.
A 2. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you really enjoyed it for the most part.
Oh, it was fantastic. Okay. The next one is going to be a solid 1. A solid 1. It's Aquarium of the Dead. Oh, yeah. This is a Vivica A. Fox vehicle that is shot over 6 days in an aquarium. Imagine. And essentially what happens is
something seems fishy to me, Jim.
Ha ha ha. So the entirety of the horror deals with a zombified octopus that has escaped into a tunnel system above the tanks and above their heads. And Vivica A. Fox is the security manager, but she's also a computer hacker. Because, being security manager, she can't get into the security system, so she has to hack into it. I don't know. But it doesn't make sense. It's garbage film.
Jim, sorry, I do like cephalopods.
Oh, I do like cephalopods. You just don't ever see it. It just growls at you from the tunnel system.
Do cephalopods growl, Jim, in real life?
I don't know. I've never heard one before.
Yeah, me neither.
Right? So maybe. The next thing I watched was Deadstream.
Okay.
It was not bad. It was okay for what it was. I thought it was a decent shot. I know that the guy that wrote it is also the star, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Did you see what I mean whenever I talked about it? It's very, obviously they love Evil Dead too.
Yeah, I did see a lot of that in this, 100%. So the next one, if you haven't seen it, Mark, you'll really like this. It's called Grim Cuddy. It's on Hulu.
Okay.
So this movie is inspired by, remember the Momo panic, where kids were, but there really was no panic.
When you say panic, you mean just people talking?
Parents were freaking out because of the quote unquote Momo challenge, but nothing was ever actually happening. Nobody ever saw anything.
Well, no, because it was a stupid creepypasta thing or something.
Right. So this takes direct aim at that. And Grim Cuddy is this internet thing that's happening. Nobody really knows where it came from or how it started. But once you see him, he is coming after you, and he forces you to cut yourself. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I thought this one was super effective in communicating the paranoia that surrounds internet hoaxes like this, while still giving it grounding in the real world. So it was really well done. I liked this movie a lot.
Jim, do you think the movie would have been less effective if the characters used critical thinking?
No, I think that yes, I do think it would have been much less effective because there would have been no movie.
Right. Okay.
Because
it's a movie, right? It's not a series or anything.
Right, it's just a movie. But the entire premise of the movie is paranoia is what's feeding it. So the only reason it's showing up is because everybody's freaking out about it.
Okay, so it's like mass hallucination type thing, right?
It's not really a hallucination, though.
Not hallucination, but like.
But yes, it is. It is like a mass hysteria thing. Yes.
Mass hysteria. That's what I was looking for.
Yep. I did also begin American Horror Story NYC. I checked out of American Horror Story back in, I think it was season 5, Hotel.
Right.
I stopped altogether. This season, several of my friends have said you really have to watch it. It's really good. It's really well done this year. I really think they only wanted me to watch it because it's about gay men and gay culture in the 80s. But I will say that so far, the first 2 episodes that I've seen are better than the last few seasons that I've seen.
Yeah, American Horror Story for me. My wife watches it. I've tried to get into it a couple of times. It's never really happened for me. It's just like it's just it feels scattershot and just like moments of this and moments of that. But I don't know.
The first 3 seasons, in my opinion, are the best. After that, you can pretty much just shoot everything else by the wayside. We already talked about Cabinet of Curiosities.
Yep.
So then I have 2 audiobooks that I've listened to, both actually, believe it or not, horror.
Wow.
So the first was The Shuddering by Anya Alborn, which is about these creatures that attack people on a ski slope. And if I'm being honest, it was totally boring. I could not get into the story at all. I wound up just stopping listening to it. I did not finish.
That sounded like good, like B-movie material.
Yeah, it could have been, but for whatever reason, be it the story or the narrator, I don't know. But I just could not get into this story at all. The next that I'm listening to right now that I started is The Sorrows by Jonathan Jans.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about this for a minute. You know my thing with gratuitous sex, right?
Yes.
I don't need sex just for having sex in a story. This book has a lot of sex in it.
Okay.
But only for the sole purpose of taking your discomfort and the horror that these people are committing, the horrible acts these people are committing, to the next level. It's not just to have sex in the story. So it's not bothering me as much in this book.
So it's used as a tool.
Yeah, it's used as a tool rather than just, well, let's fuck, you know?
Quote unquote, a tool.
Yeah, there's one scene where this couple is, they go almost insane. The son, one of the characters, I think his name is Chris, says that this is the night my parents turned into monsters. And he doesn't mean that literally, but they get into this knockdown, drag out fight. They wind up having sex, like brutal sex, to where the mother gets the crap beat out of her. And then the father turns his anger on the maid. And as he's having sex with her, he sees his son has come into the room and is paying attention. And he drops the woman out a window.
Well, as you do.
Right. Well, so I should say that this takes place on a remote island called the Sorrows. And it's a replica of a 14th century castle that this guy has had built because he's apparently very wealthy. And so anyway, but that's my point. Like, there's another scene where this girl's having a dream. There's a lot of the haunting of Hill House in this book, or not the haunting of Hill House. I'm sorry, just the haunting there's a lot of throat callbacks, and this was inspired very heavily by that movie, like the loud banging and, oh my God, what's on the other side of the door?
Right.
And then you get a scene where one of the characters is having a fever dream about this creature coming in and having sex with her. And at first she's aroused, but then it turns into a horror moment where it's ripping and tearing into her as it's continuing to go at her. It's very intense, and I think that's probably why it doesn't bother me as much, is because it's used as a tool to further the horrors of this storyline, not just for the sake of having sex in a story. But so far, this is a great book. I'm enjoying it because it's so horrific, and it's not necessarily about monsters yet. It's more about the horrors that people commit upon each other.
I thought, Jim, everyone was nice to each other. No?
Mark, you may want to refill because I think you're a quart low again.
Okay, well, at least you're enjoying 1 out of 2 audiobooks, so that's good.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. I'm definitely enjoying this book.
Okay, I don't have anything else. Do you? I mean, we're trying to keep down the length of the podcast because people turn off after a certain time because.
Well, I do zone out after you talk for a bit, Mark.
Well, I don't blame you.
I'm the same with me.
Do you have anything else?
No, I don't have anything else. We're good. I'm done. Yeah. So I do want to mention that we do still have the Facebook group, the Horror Movies and Shit Facebook group. We are still available on pretty much every platform you could ever want to get your podcast on. So go ahead and give us a follow. And that's really it, Mark.
And thanks to our tens of fans, and hopefully my audio is sufficiently good enough for certain complaining fans.
Do you hear that, Idra? I told him. She will complain that your accent's not heavy enough yet, though.
What you talking about, you big Egypt, Jim?
Anyway. Okay, guys.
3,333 trees.
Anyway, thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you guys soon.